Okay, so we're moving into module 6, which is about character development. And what I'm going to get into right here is literally from the overview, but then we're going to talk a little more about it. As Carter says in one of the appendices, I should reread them so I know exactly where it is. She says, plot moves us through a story or a novel or whatever, but it's the character that stays with us after. And I strongly believe that's true. When you think about your favorite books, you might have like a fondness for a plot twist that happened, but it happened to a character that you care about. And so you just have to keep in mind that character will be, if we're not invested in your character, we're like, oh, that's too bad that happened. So make us really passionate about your character, even if it's because we passionately hate them, right? I mean, just make us feel an emotion towards character. So the most interesting characters are not wholly good or bad, as it says in our learning module. And this is true. They're a mixture of positive and negative traits. And so one of my favorite things to say, I've probably already said this to you in your verbal feedback, but I'm going to say it again because I love this. It's like you bring characters in to do a job for you, like I just graded Suzanne's work this morning, and she brings Emily in to be this plucky, sporty person who's going to solve a cold case of one of their best friends. And she's finally figured out what she can do, and she runs off to do it. And it's very dangerous. She's there to be the plucky, sporty person. So make her resist her job a little. Make her like have a little mean streak for a moment, or make her admit something awful, like, well, Lydia and I did grow closer when there wasn't a triangle of friendship or whatever, right? But just always, and especially in fiction, but I've been trying to do this in my memoir as well. I'm trying to push a side of my personality in my memoir, or your character's personality, that isn't quite what they signed up for. If you think of a job that you've had before, like for me, especially being in the military, I followed my brother into the military, but I don't believe in war as a means to peace. So I was resisting, luckily I wasn't asked to shoot somebody because I don't think I could have. And so how do you take a person in your story and ask them to be just on the edge, not quite what they came in to do? You've created them, and they should be resisting you to say, I want to be my own person. And when they start to be their own person outside of what you created them to do, then you'll start making them more complex. And even if you write all this in and take 97% of it out, as long as you're having this character create this tension against who they're stereotypically made to be, you're going to start having an interesting character. And so I think the 4 readings we have this week, it's my favorite reading module of the entire English 529. You have Parker's Stop and Go. You have Flannery O'Connor's Good Country Folk, I think is what it's called. And 2 more great ones. Oh, the one where they're going to the thrift store. Something about eating. And there's one more, and it's great too. I just can't think of it. All of them have these amazing character development in them, and they're so character driven that the plot is intertwined with who the characters are. And I think you'll see, Parker's Stop and Go seems so flat on the surface until you start digging. And it's all about this character that we've all recognized and has this, implacable exterior, but he hints and hints and hints at an interior that makes you just, once you blow the story apart, it's unbelievable. And the same with Something About Eating a Hamburger. I looked at him 5 minutes ago. Okay, so character development. I'm so excited. It's the most important thing I think you can get right in your fiction writing. And it's something, for me anyway, that I've never stopped learning on. I feel as if I will write for the rest of my life and I'll never know that I have it completely right. Do y'all have any questions about my enthusiasm for character development? Okay, well, the biggest piece of advice, again, is to have them just do something that's not quite fitting exactly who they are, and then you'll begin to understand them better. I really do advise going back through like the Proust questionnaire that you learned in English 520, places where you can expand knowing your character a little better, and force yourself to give them a characteristic that surprises you, that you don't think fits them. Even if you don't put it in the story, let it be in your head. Okay, so now we get to the really fun part of these Saturday times, because we're going to do some writing exercises. You're really lucky because having Sarah here forces me to change them up because she's seen all the ones I've done before. So I have some new ones. And then at the end, I'm going to throw in the 4 that I got. I took it from Judy Blume's masterclass on character development. I know Judy Blume, but they're great prompts. And I'll throw those in for you to download and use for yourself after this is over. And I'll put them in the description for the YouTube recording as well. Okay, so these I chose because I wanted to have prompts that just dug into a little piece of your character maybe you haven't been thinking about. And so, well, except for the one I thought I was going to use, I just realized is Suzanne's story, so we're not going to do that one. So instead, I want to start with one that talks about what the character thinks about themselves. And one of the reasons I think this is important is, like, right now in Birch Bark, I'm coaching a person who wrote a really amazing memoir. And he wants to branch off a novel based on one of the characters that happened to him in this, detention center in Iraq, and he's having a little bit of trouble transitioning to creating a separate voice for that person. So this prompt that I'm going to use, I want it to be there because so often our characters will take on our characteristics. But I want you to think of this person as an individual that you know because they showed up in your story, but you have to get inside their head and find out who they are separate from who you thought. So this prompt, and I will give you the prompt and then I will get you writing and you'll get 6 minutes to write. So get your head around that as I'm doing the prompt. Your character isn't convinced they're a good person. Write a scene or a conversation or anything that does the job for you. Do they remember ever thinking that they were good? So at this moment, and here it comes in the chat, at this moment, they don't think they're a good person. Have they ever thought they were? And you can write about either realizing the moment that they thought they were, or write the moment that they did think they were, or why it would be impossible to ever think they were, right? And I think, I don't know for sure if Jen's been here before, so I'll just repeat. If you can, it's really great to write by hand. We know handwriting will be hard to read when you read back later what you got, but it does engage both sides of your hemisphere. We don't mind if you have to pause and say, I can't read my handwriting, if it means you got a chance to be a little bit more creative. And again, I do most of my writing by typing, but in these short pressured writing prompts, I feel like even greater creativity happens if you do it by hand, if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. Okay, so your character isn't convinced they're a good person. Write a scene or a conversation that explains why. Do they remember ever thinking they were good? On your marks, get set, write. You have about a minute left. Okay, try to start wrapping things up, please. Time is up. Okay, how did things go for you all? I have movement from one person and a half smile from another.
It went somewhere I didn't anticipate.
Awesome, that's my favorite. Hey, Jen. You're muted. There you go.
There you go. Okay. I just realized I wasn't there.
Did it go well for you?
Yeah.
Randall?
Yeah, I think so.
Good, good. What about you, Tristan?
Oh, she put in the chat, not well.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Yeah, she went out and back in, so that means that I don't think she has sound again. So who is interested in sharing what you got?
I don't mind.
Okay, thanks for breaking the ice, Sarah.
Cassie got up from the couch and made a beeline for her bedroom. She had told her third foster mom, Dawn, that she loved her. Thanks, Dawn had responded. As she closed her bedroom door, her face felt feverish with embarrassment. Crying, she curled into a fetal position on her bed. She made no sound as she inwardly screamed, God, you'll have to send me to hell because I can never love anyone again. You took Darcy and Vinny from me and threw me into this cold, neutral house. Cheeks burning hotter, she remembered being 4 years old. She wrapped her arm around a flagpole. Alone, she smelled her arm, wondering if she smelled bad, and that's why no one loved her. She didn't notice anything gross, but she sunk to her knees knowing the gross was inside.
Oh, what an ending. Thoughts from the people who are hearing it?
I think you did a really good job of conveying the self-conscious nature of somebody who's in that moment of self-loathing. Very powerful, I felt like.
Yeah.
What else? When we think of the things that 529 emphasizes in any way, like narrative arc, narrative voice, character development, setting, description, sensory detail, rhetorical devices, were any of those things in there?
I think there was a lot of character development in the thought process, because you really come to understand how this character feels about their self, and that's a powerful part of that development.
Absolutely.
That was this do I smell bad? Like, do I give off a badness was really and then just yeah.
Yeah. You have more to add, Suzanne?
Yeah, the details and just like the feverish and like but embarrassed and just curling up, like all the imagery that you used made it so powerful, especially because you're relating like what we have like seen or felt and then went into the character of maybe like a slightly different thing of what it's usually described, but we still have those like powerful like feelings of what we know about him behind it. And so it's really good.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we definitely are invested in Cassie as a character.
Yeah.
And we have been inside her now. And the thing that I would expect to happen next in this story, if you were moving on beyond it, is to have a character interact with her. Because, you know, of course, we don't want to stay inside somebody's head too long. And I would think that maybe Dawn would come into the room. And I got thrown off because I knew about Darcy and I knew the DA. And I was like, wait, I don't think it's Dawn. So you threw me off because I know the characters. So I would think that then we would find out what happens when somebody else sees her from the outside. We've really seen the inside of her and we care. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with this character development. Cassie's been pretty miserable. So one of the things that I want you to be always pushing with her, because what's so great about Cassie is all of her resilience. So maybe be thinking through, how do I kind of give her a little bit of character outside of the fact that she's like everything about it's really miserable, and yet she keeps emerging strong. And so help us understand why that's true. What is it about her or about her experiences that allows her to somehow just keep, you know, she seems to never lose hope. And that's amazing considering what's happening to her.
Okay.
My thoughts went a little long. Sorry. I've been giving feedback. I'm long when I've been giving feedback because I've been talking to, I have hours and hours of talking now under my belt about people's stories. Sorry about that. All right, who wants to go next? Thank you, Sarah.
I'll go.
Thanks.
The rain pattered against the canvas tent tops, sounding a relaxing drum beat over the quiet circus. Danica closed his eyes and turned his face upward into the storm as the thunder rumbled through the quiet of the woods. Part of him wanted to go inside where it was warm and dry, where the other performers were laughing and enjoying their meager meals together before the next show tomorrow. Another part of him wanted to stay beneath the rain. It's more than I deserve. He could still remember his promise to Mother when she lay dying of the same coughing fits that had taken Father nearly 2 years before. He swore over Father's deathbed that he would take care of Mother, that he would bring back her smile and make her sing again. Yet all he managed to do was worry her constantly. It had seemed the right thing to do at the time, stealing food when they needed it. He tried to only take from the street vendors that were fat and smiling. Fat meant they had enough, right? Back then, Danica still believed in right and wrong, much more than now. Mother had died as Father, coughing droplets of blood onto the bed sheets and staring uncomprehendingly as he promised he would make something of himself. She had smiled at that, gripping his hand with all the feeble strength she had left. It was enough for her to die fulfilled. First a thief, and then one of the many hangers on to the circus. He was as destitute as the day she had died, and the world remained unchanged. I wonder if she can still see me now. If she could, he had no doubt that the rain would be her tears, drowning the world in sorrow at the utter mess he had made of his life. He wished he could see his mother one more time, to tell her he had done his best, to tell her he had tried. Even as the thought came to his mind, he knew he could never lie to his mother like that.
Wow.
Nice.
You tell me you're typing. That's a lot.
Yeah, I had to type. I couldn't find a notebook.
Okay, good. Good. Yeah, you got a lot of story in there in 6 minutes. That's really great. So what do y'all think? What are some of the characteristics of the writing that stand out to you that you like?
I'm curious if you've ever read the book called This Tender Land.
I have not.
William Kent Kruger, very reminiscent of style. I liked that at the beginning you contrasted the noise of the rain with the quiet of the circus and other surroundings, that you were able to fit in a great deal of backstory, but also kind of some foreshadowing, and how it really seemed like the bad that was done was actually for good reason or need. So that like adds complexity to the character and what they believe about the world, about themselves, etc.
Nice, yeah. Do you have anything to add, Suzanne or Jen?
I really like the character development, but I really liked how like the rain was like comfort and how it's like juxtaposed to like being alone versus being with the others. But then how you also brought it like with the imagery and like also the rhetorical devices for like it being the mother's tears and drowning the world for just like how disappointed he feels she would be in him, and just like how that all like went into what he feels of himself by like thinking what his mother thought. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Anything to add, Jen?
It was there was a lot in that. There's to just, you could feel the development, and you're not sure if he's really a bad person or is it a bad deed. You know, there's sort of a morality question going on in him, conflict in him.
Yeah, and I would ask, do you think he's a bad person? Those of you who heard this?
No,
And do you think that his mother would be crying about it?
I would hope not.
Yeah, I mean, I feel on this character's side. And so I would be like, no, the mom would be happy that he's alive, that he's doing something possibly that he wants to do. Like, I mean, and I know this is awful, but I mean, we make these assumptions. This is the contingent reality we talk about. I'm bringing in the go for it character, you're still going to rise, or even if you don't, you're doing things, and it never feels immoral. I feel like the young adult and young children's stories we read, if you steal for the right reason and you try to reason that people can afford it, it's okay, right?
Mhm.
And it's kind of not, but the person's doing everything they know how to do, right? So the person really, this narrator felt like somebody who cared and was doing the best that he could do. Sarah mentioned that book. So I love the way my brain expanded with the rain on the tent. I was immediately camping. And in two more words, circus, I would, whoo, I had a big top, right? Which was really neat. And then suddenly I was thinking, because this person's a hanger on at the circus, of is it Aaron Morgenstern's The Midnight Circus? Is that the name of it? No, that's The Midnight Library. Oh, what's the name of? Y'all know what I'm talking about. It is The Midnight Circus.
Aaron Morgenstern. Night Circus.
The Night Circus. If you haven't read that, I felt like your story might be able to launch in those kind of fantastical directions. And that was an incredible novel if you haven't read it. Everything that everybody said, I agree with. And I would say that what I enjoyed in this long amount you were able to write because you're typing was somehow you managed to expand our vision of it for setting by using the word circus. You were very spare. You gave us backstory, you gave us foreshadowing, all the things that Sarah said, and you gave us real character development. And I mean, we were rooting for this person by the end of your reading, and that's a lot to accomplish in pressured writing. So it was a wonderful start. I guess, again, if you were to go back and use this or polish it, that's when you start fine tuning, that every word serves some greater purpose. So you're responding to this prompt, but then you would look back at this writing and say, what is the universal theme or thing that this is about? Is this shame in the face of, doing your best to support a mom as a promise to a dad? Is this like shame for what it takes to try to help people? I don't know. Or maybe shame as a launching point for changing this narrative's life. I don't know. It's your story. You'd have to decide, right? It's good. Thanks, Randall.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Anybody want to read?
I can.
Okay.
Emily looked up at Lydia, the words sinking in and anchoring all those thoughts, those bad ones, to her core. Emily was doing this for a selfish reason. Did she actually want to find Rosalie? Did she want her back? Or was she trying to get the glory for herself and for Lydia for solving the case before the police and especially her dad first? It wasn't for the right reason. All those hours spent, the journals, the maps, ghosting her friends and family, this obsession. No wonder Lydia was trying to kill her. It was her fault. The realization hit her like a semi-truck. It was all her fault. If she were good, then they wouldn't be here. She wouldn't have broken all those laws, her family's heart, and also Lydia. No, the two of them could have gotten closer. They could have grown. Instead, they were here, bleeding out, severing their friendship, cutting ties. If only she had been good.
Wow. I know the story, so I'm like, wow. What do you all think first? And then I will explain my wow.
I like the wordplay at the end, like especially at the end when you said bleeding out and severing ties. It's kind of like, I like word games like that, so that's kind of cool.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I like what you did with that because it kind of helped to show this friendship was like, if it gave it this feeling of importance like life. So when the bleeding out of the friendship was like as important as a loss of life to the character, it seemed like.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll do a pressured writing prompt like this to earn one line like that. You know, it's possible that all the rest of it will or won't show up, but your brain will get you to that. You know, sometimes you're clearing the way to get to a line that's so amazing, because in the story that I just read of Suzanne's, I read it this morning, there is death related to these characters, but I thought I read it that it was one way, and if this was two way, it'd be really interesting. I probably missed her fighting back. Did I miss it?
No, I don't think she even fought back.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Okay, good. It would be kind of cool if she did.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I mean, I just love this idea that maybe it doesn't work out for Lydia either. And that, you know, to have them all be gone would be kind of, and then her dad, sadly, here it was all happening under her nose, right? We don't know the dad at all, but you don't probably have room to introduce him much. But think of that disparity that Randall used with the word circus, right? There, you have a few more words possible that might be able to dial in the dad. Because I would assume that as a cop in a small town like this, or kind of small town, his daughter, one of her best friends, dies. He's probably obsessively working the case, is my guess. So yeah, really nice. And yes, that line that you got in there, it was all worth it just for the one. Really nicely done. And it gave me an insight to Emily, because I didn't expect her to feel guilty, but I love everything you said about her feeling guilty, and the way she obsessed felt true, even though you said none of those things in your story, like none of those. I mean, a little bit about the obsession maybe, but you know, you expanded her as a character a ton for me, and it all felt true.
Thank you.
Yeah, so cool. Jen or Tristan, do you want to share anything? I think, again, Tristan probably can't use sound, but if you can, we'd love to hear what you wrote.
Well, I have a bizarre writing, like I sort of write a draft. I think it comes from my theater background, where I put the character on. So it's like just mental, and then the details fill in later. So there's no details.
Fair enough.
Okay. Was I ever good? I don't remember. If I was, no one ever pointed it out. Does it have to be? Do good people spontaneously know they are good? Is it a feeling? Not sure I even know a truly good person to ask. I must have been good at some point as a child. My parents never told me, well, not the good things. There is a litany of sins and inexcusable acts my father will still pull out at every time I disappoint him. I don't even live under his roof anymore. So why does he think sleep is lost over his opinion of me? Yet I'm alone. Good people aren't alone, are they? What makes them good? I just don't understand.
Oh.
Mm.
Want to know more about this character? Okay, thoughts from people.
There was a really good strong character voice, especially like pulling details from childhood. Then we're like, oh no. And then we kind of get some like assumptions of why this character is having this like monologue of like, are they good? Because my parents didn't tell me I was good. They only highlighted the bad parts. So it was very strong in that regard.
Sarah or Randall?
The line that I kind of picked out and jotted down here was, I'm not sure I know a truly good person to ask. To me, that kind of almost made it this tongue-in-cheek thing, like the character is almost self-aware of the fact that there's really not such a good thing, such a thing as a quote unquote good person. We're all kind of mixed. So I kind of like that.
I was looking up a term, an apostrophe. So like beyond like the punctuation apostrophe, in writing refers to a speech or address to a person who is not present or to a personified object. Like it felt kind of like you were asking yourself, but you might have been asking somebody else also. And so that was like kind of the apostrophe thing, because you had this dialogue with somebody potentially is not there. So I thought that that was pretty good. And also that in doing that, it was still interesting enough to stick with and follow your train of thought.
And I would argue that what would expand this, because you said there aren't details, is we would have some way that brings us into what made her start asking, and I said her because you're identifying as a woman. I don't know what your narrator is. What makes your narrator start asking the question, what makes a person good? Like it's been posed to her in some way.
Right.
And then what would happen if another character became a part of that scene, even if they're not engaging with what she's thinking? What your character would say next back to them would be an extension of those ideas that she's having in her head. So, you know, whatever we have, my head never shuts up, but it impacts what I say to other people when I'm thinking about something, right? So the ways, you know, we're always encouraged to not leave our characters alone too long, that readers can get bored inside a character's head. And we've talked about how if the character's all alone, they still have a way, like apostrophes are part of the way. They might have an animal, or they may be speaking to, say, the nature around them, if it's like, say, a survival story. But your character will not be truly alone and inside their head for a whole story, or you'll probably bore a reader. You definitely don't in this, you know, pressured writing prompt, because it's not too much. And the questions are good. And as Suzanne said, we're learning more about her backstory and revealing some things about her character. And what I wrote down is when she said, I must have been good at some time, maybe when I was like 4, that actually points to, I read Sarah's chat and I had to undistract myself. It points to that philosophy that are people inherently good, or are they inherently evil? And this one believes they're inherently good, that they're born good and learn evil. Just by that question, we know that. And so then it's like, well, okay, so at the core, this person probably is good, but is so inured into society and the way we think about ourselves that the narrator can't even think about, like, they just don't think they're good anymore, right? And so it'd be an interesting, like, change or arc, or you know how a character is supposed to change across the course of any kind of narration you do, even a flash fiction, your character will change. You know, does that worldview somehow change? Does she stop believing that you were inherently good, or does she start believing that she could be good because it turns out that core belief of hers could be true? So like, there's lots of directions you can keep working with that to take it towards, you know, something else if you wanted to. It was fun. So Sarah, you said not truly alone in her own head. Are you talking about when we had people alone?
No, you said that. And I just caught it because I was like, that's kind of cool. Sorry.
Oh, you mean if we have, what context did I say it in? What did I mean? Tell me what I meant.
Well, I went a different direction with that particular phrase just because I like to think crazy, but
Right.
yeah. I don't know. I just like the phrase, so I thought I'd
Oh,
do it.
okay. Yeah, but I guess the idea is that as readers, we don't want to stay alone in their head too long, is what I was getting at. But I love that you took it crazy, because when you wrote this here, that's exactly how I took it when you wrote the piece. So I had lost my context by then. And so Tristan, are you oh, you don't have anything to share? Okay, no problem. That's absolutely no problem. You're always invited to be here and respond to the prompts and get what you get out of them. And the conversation, I think, is always interesting and helps us all, including myself, with my own writing. Okay, so this one, kind of going back and forth between a couple of them. And okay, so I'll take a vote. There's 2 words. So number 1, the word is cooking. Number 2, the word is mentor. You want to go with 1, put up 1 finger or stay 1. If you want to go with 2, which is mentor, put up 2 fingers.
What
And
was
then
the
I'll let
first word?
cook, like cooking a meal. Okay, Sarah wants 2. Randall wants 2. Suzanne wants 2. We're going with 2. You're outvoted, Jen and Tristan. Okay, whoops, I almost copied another one. I'm gonna put this in the chat, and this will be our next prompt. I'm gonna read it out to you also. For your next writing, does your character have a mentor, coach, or guide? Write a scene where they clash with this mentor or take issue with the advice or directions they've been given. So normally the mentor is somebody that it seems like they would like or admire, or they wouldn't be the person's mentor or coach or guide. But at one point, they don't like what they've been told to do or ideas that have been offered to them. I know who Sarah is supposed to write about, so I'm going to be interested to see where this goes. Okay, so you can take the character that you have. You can take a character from what you're writing for class. Start fresh, a character that pops into your head. Try to think of a situation where somebody's giving you advice. Like, I don't know, your instructor for English 529 tells you to complicate your characters and you don't want to. That's fine too. Whatever comes to mind where somebody's offering you advice or your character gets offered advice and you do not want to do what's been offered, or your character resists what's been offered, and you'll write about that in some way. Okay, on your marks, get set, right. You have about a minute left. Okay, time is up. Please try to wrap up your writing. I see Suzanne has somebody that looks a lot like my Lord Judy.
He wants to help.
Good boy. Yeah. I'm gonna throw in the chat while you guys are finishing up the Judy Blume prompts that I often use in this time so that you can see them and cut and paste them out if you want for yourself. And here, I don't think the links, maybe they pass through, maybe they don't. But that's the name of the class I took it from. And for those people on the recording, since I don't put the chat in typically, I will put them in the description, but it's taken from the Judy Blume Masterclass on Character Development. And I'll put those prompts in there. Okay, so how did it go? I think typically the second one's a little better because you're warmed up a little bit. So I hope it was. I can't tell if Jen's shaking her head or not.
I'm trying to get back. Okay. I was cutting and pasting and then I lost the
The Zoom.
where the Zoom was on my computer. Technology making my life easier.
Do any of you know what library I have behind me?
I've been actually trying to figure it out because I know I've seen it before.
Somebody who I think would know in one of my Zooms recently said they thought it was an Oxford library. I don't know. I just Googled gorgeous libraries and this was amazing. I don't know. I think I like if I were to create a fantasy library in a book, it would look just like this. So I'd probably change, oh, I can't really. That. I don't really like the statue, but
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's all good.
I'd have ladders.
Oh yeah, because it's tall enough you need them for sure.
Right.
Huh. Yeah. Maybe it could be a library where when you call the book, it comes down to you. So you don't need ladders.
That would be awesome. Or like the old Timex watch display cases that went round and round.
Right. Except for that, I've always thought it'd be so amazing to be at the top of one of those ladders in one of those big libraries and see how your perspective has changed. So I would both want ladders and books that fly out when you call them. All right, did anybody get anything you want to share with the group?
I did. I can go.
Okay, thanks, Randall.
I did find a notebook, so it's a little shorter this time.
It was fine that it was long. I was just so impressed if you were writing by hand. Okay,
Damica was stung from his reverie by a painful slap. Stunned surprise turned to anger as he looked up at Bar. You're not even listening. Damica spluttered his outrage, but he had no defense. Tell me how you might sing to a line, Bar demanded. Probably off key, Damica muttered ruefully. Bar slapped him again. Stop hitting me. Someone has to wake you up, the old man answered with a laugh. Otherwise, you'll dwell in your dreams until some beast devours you. The Cirque de Lumiere will be a laughing stock, letting our beast tamers be some food. I'll never be able to enjoy my retirement. He paused in his rant, tapping his chin. We might make more money, though. Why does it matter? I'll never be good at this. Stop wallowing in your pity, Barr said, tapping his wooden leg for emphasis. You're not tragedy's only companion.
Okay, everybody, what are your thoughts?
I'm writing the last sentence down.
I know, we need that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could make money on that t-shirt. And again, some great writing to land on a line that has to exist in your writing somewhere. And we get to write it down, but it's definitely Randall's. We can't take it.
Right.
But we can be inspired by it, right? Okay, so thoughts, everybody.
Hey Randall, is this one of the stories that you're writing for class?
It is.
Okay, perfect. Because I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this one. I really liked, especially like, well, someone has to wake you up so the beast doesn't devour you. Like, and then I was like, oh no, thinking about like just that fight with the beast. I haven't read yours this week, but I'm really excited to go into that. But just like the imagery and just like thinking about having this mentor and how this mentor is like, you need to do better, especially when like we know that he's going to accomplish so much and he, depending how you chooses to give it up or not, with the beast. It's just so exciting.
I haven't gotten to Randall's story yet, so I feel like I'm getting a little preview. I mean, I've had a preview, obviously, with the choices, but I mean, the longer story. More thoughts?
I could feel for both of them, the frustration of the Bar and the self-doubt, loathing or self-doubting of this, I'm not good enough. I'm not, he needs a Stuart Smalley mirror or something to help him out.
Yeah.
And the last line was great.
Any other thoughts, Sarah? Okay. One of my other favorite lines, clearly we all love the last line, is how do you sing to a lion? Right. And then of course the humor shows up with probably off key because you're terrified. But immediately I'm like, oh, why do you sing to a lion? Like, not only how do you do it, but what's the purpose behind it? I know he's with a circus because of the previous writing that he did. So a lion isn't entirely unexpected, but I'm thinking of, the stool and the whip, right? That normally, the stereotypical lion tamer has. Why do you sing to them? And so you're opening up more questions and creating an interactive experience with your reader because you want us asking questions. You want us anticipating where the story is going. And so when you ask a question like that between characters, so that happened in dialogue, but that dialogue impacts your reader, right? So that turned out really great because I'm like, what kind of circus is this that they have to ask a question like, how do you sing to a lion? And then in my mind, that opened up, of course, all those magical possibilities that happen with the night circus. So if you haven't read it, I'm reading it. When you go back to edit, you'll pick up on things like in your first probably 2 lines, you had stunned and stunned. And so when you're editing, it's always a great idea to keep your mind on high alert for repeated words because we repeat them because it's a good word when we're writing drafts. And then we just have to catch them and change our writing when we go back to them. Like no criticism for it happening in a 6-minute writing prompt, but advice for how to pay attention when you go back and edit. Do you have any questions, Randall?
No, I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, it's great. I'm so excited to read your work later today was when it's going to happen. After I shovel the rest of my mom's place and stock her up on groceries because we got so much snow last night. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Go
No,
for
go
it.
Suzanne.
Okay, Suzanne, and then I guess Sarah. Does that sound all right?
Yeah. So I definitely took the prompt and I had such like a thought. I don't think I quite got to it. But The office was unlocked. Generally, the oak door stood guard, closed off, protecting its treasure. Until today, Emily slowly walked in, wanting to see why she had to live in this house alone. Why her dad stayed in this room when it was just them. He was there, slumped over the desk, head in his arm, pen in one hand and a whiskey glass in the other. He hadn't shaved. She stepped softly, trying not to disturb his slumber as she took in the small office. Papers were scattered, red yarn littered the room. Rosalie at the center. She didn't know who was taking this harder, her or her dad. One floorboard wasn't on her side, creaking loudly, causing her and her dad to jump up. His eyes blurry, focusing and clearing once he saw her. We'll find her, Emily. I swear, if this is the thing that kills me. No, this shouldn't be the thing that kills him. She would find her friend, even if it kills her.
You were approaching it for sure. What are people's thoughts?
I like the amount of characterization and setting that you got in really early with just a little bit of description, like the whiskey and him not being shaved and the littered room and the red yarn. Like those little phrases just really brought the scene to life. And I could see a mixture of like a detective movie and I don't know if you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but the scene where Charlie's got the yarn all over the wall screaming and pointing at his plot that he's created. I kind of got a mix of those two, and I thought it really helped to bring the scene to life.
Nice. What else?
Yeah, I like the red yarn littered the room. I didn't entirely grasp what was lost, but for some reason my mind went to like a critter, but I don't have a clue if that's what you were talking about, and I apologize for that. But I thought that the setting that you set up was remarkable.
Anything to add, Jen?
The image of the red yarn, I went to some movie that I don't know because it's like, I think it's from the 70s. I want to say it's Diane Keaton, but she was much younger then, and she's having a nervous breakdown and she's seeing the world in triangles, and she has all these triangles on her wall. It's all I remember of the movie. I watched it late one night, and they're all connected by yarn and T-pins on the wall, and just chaos.
Huh. Which sounds right. Yeah, so what most of you don't know, though Randall might, is that Rosalie is one of her best friends. Rosalie, Lydia, and Emily are best friends. Rosalie has disappeared. They suspect at this point she's probably dead because it's been so long, but they haven't found her body either. And her dad's obsessed with it because he's the cop on the case. And what I love about this scene with all of its amazing description is a real characterization scene, because it shows us how obsessed the dad is, but it shows us why Emily notches things up a gear, because she's like, I'm not going to let it kill my dad. I'll let it kill me before it kills him. Right. And so she already has this guilt about it, probably something related to, if I'd done this one thing, Rosalie wouldn't have been, where she was to have this happen. If she'd come to my house that night or whatever, if we'd gone out for the movies, like we said we were, that's not in your story yet, but I bet there's a tie that Emily feels guilty about. And now we know, as Emily felt guilty in the last writing that you did, now we know part of why she goes one level higher, obsessive. And now I think perhaps there isn't a mom in the picture, and that it's just Emily and her dad living in the house, and they didn't know any of that before. And that really expands the story. It helps us understand Emily's vulnerability, her availability to be as obsessed as her father, because if he's obsessing over the case, he's not paying attention to her. And that opens up all the unsupervised space for her to do all the things she's doing. So I'm really excited about where this goes. And I do believe, if I remember correctly, you have some room in your story to add some stuff. So yeah, so I'm really excited that you have some little pieces that can get tucked in there and expand your story with very few words. I mean, we didn't do that much writing today, but there's a ton of characterization you have possible. So yeah, great start. And of course the red yarn, that was my favorite image of the whole thing, that it was red. you know, I mean, that detail alone is just wonderful. And, you know, kind of like, where and how does a guy that doesn't have a wife and whose daughter's a lacrosse player, where does he come up with red yarn? So that's a choice that somebody makes. It's kind of cool.
Thank you.
Good start. I'm excited about what Randall and Suzanne are getting done for class. That's, you know, one of the great things about having these workshops, for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think we have Sarah, and then Jen, if you have something to share, you'd be after Sarah. And I suspect that Tristan, she'll probably put in the chat whether or not she wants to do something this time. Sarah?
So I don't think mine accomplishes much standing alone, but we'll see. 6 months after adult Cassie was kicked out of her home, she remembered a conversation she'd had recently. So far, Linda hasn't proven to be fickle. I say you trust her at her word, Cassie's therapist interjected. She said she'd never kick me out. Never happens. The knot in Cassie's stomach wound tighter. I told Linda I dreamt again that she kicked me out. She got mad at me for not trusting the relationship. Well, Linda doesn't understand your background of being passed from one home to another. Look at all that she's done for you. I know, and I appreciate it, but I can't help my dreams. I think your experience feeds your dreams. Yeah, well, I know everyone leaves. It may not even be their choice, but they're still gone. Just give her a chance.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Wow, and yes, and I want more. What does everybody else think?
I think I really liked it because you said it doesn't do much as a standalone, but like you can tell, like, I think this is probably the first time saying it out loud, but like the narrative profluence, like you can tell that there's something more in this world and we're just seeing this like little snapshot, but like how detailed and in-depth it is and how every like event is going to pull through it and just like add so much to the character. It's just so good.
It also creates this feeling with you know, you're coming to root for this character and you're wanting her to understand that people do care about her, and you're rooting for this therapist, like, please say something to help her understand.
Right. I was going to say she clearly trusts the therapist, but she can't take that trust into her own day-to-day life away from the isolation of therapy.
Yeah, I mean, she trusts her therapist because she doesn't have to have a 24/7 relationship with that person.
Yes.
She can trust that person in the 1 hour or whatever that they're together. And so, did I hear you correctly that Cassie was kicked out, or are we hearing her talking about the dream?
So 6 months after Linda did kick her out, she remembered this conversation with her therapist.
Okay, so I would be fascinated if you were exploring this to find out, did Cassie create a self-fulfilling prophecy? And what I mean is that you hinted that Cassie was frustrating Linda, though Cassie can't help her dreams. Linda's like, Cassie doesn't trust me, and she should. I've done everything to trust her. And did the piece, the narrative profluence that Suzanne's talking about, the piece in the middle that we don't see, is that Cassie just kept pushing and pushing and pushing because she just didn't trust that she wasn't going to get thrown out until she did get thrown out because she caused it to happen? Or truly, is this Cassie's everybody gives up on her? And that's a huge question that you leave open in this. That's wonderful. But you couldn't finish the story without at least offering a nudge in a direction for us to understand what we're supposed to get out of it. You wouldn't even have to literally spell it out, but we know enough as sophisticated readers that it's probably one or the other, and we want to know which. Because if this were to be, say, a big novel that has Cassie in it, and we know there's a potential for a novel with Cassie in it, would this be where Cassie finally learns to not cause the self-fulfilling prophecy? Or are you writing a story where people really do always leave and it's not even always their choice? Because you're writing kind of one or the other, right? Or a little bit of both. And it could be that Cassie's causing it. And finally, because I'm thinking of have you all read Hanya Yanagihara's A Little Life? And if you haven't, I mean, it's beautifully written. I think it's 800 pages long, and it's just that it's been accused of being sort of almost like what's the word, like the one character that we love so much is just constant, like, abused and hurt, and things get worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's kind of I just can't remember the word. It's not violence porn, but it's some kind of porn of the misery of this guy's life. I mean, it's really sad. 800 pages of it, all sad. All to say, though, the same questions are happening in it about trust and about whether people leave on purpose or whether people don't have a choice about leaving. It's exactly what you addressed in this pressured writing. So what do you, God, I'm talking a lot. Clearly I'm doing papers these days, but it's all to say that both things could be happening in your novel, and you could be trying to address how does somebody deal with these things, right?
Thank you.
I think you opened up such an incredible question, and getting a glimpse of adult Cassie was essential. I mean, you could have a glimpse of adult Cassie that would take you back then to tell her whole narrative story as a bookend to the story of childhood Cassie's life up to adulthood. I mean, it really opened a ton of stuff, I think.
Thank you.
That's my opinion. Yeah, good work. Ugh. Cassie's story has to be told one way or the other. Has to happen. Okay, Jen, did you get something you want to share?
Well, I got something.
Would you please share it and we'll tell you what we think?
You know, you attract more flies with sugar than vinegar. Ugh. Why do we tell her anything about the children? All right, because she'll knock on the and march right in, screaming her personal advice and what she heard from someone that she totally got asked backwards. I tried being nice and was screwed over for it. Oh, I wasn't aware you had tried that. You're always so confrontational. Silently, I am screaming. I'm confrontational. I'm confrontational. Who is standing in my uninvited kitchen telling me I'm the cause of my child's problems? Has she seen how hers turned out? I take a deep breath and calmly say, yes, I did. Oh, she repeats. If John doesn't come downstairs and address his mother now, he will be leaving with her. I don't take this crap from my own mother, who has enough sense to back off when I say enough. And I ran out of time.
Okay. Wow. So such a screenwriter because of all the cool dialogue and the interiority of her thoughts. And I'm not positive I understand what's happening, but I want to hear what everybody else says and maybe it'll help me.
I thought it was like really powerful dialogue, but I really like that she had like this or the person had like this monologue of like, I think it was the mother, like, who does this mother think she was telling me what to do? And obviously it didn't go that great, but then like bringing it back and like calmly, like not wanting to like keep fighting, and was like, yeah, you're right. Even though they don't feel, or they don't believe that their mother was correct, but it was like a really powerful like scene.
Yeah, huge characterization there.
I like how you read it with your voice, but I also think if you had done it, like read it kind of monotone, your words did it for you and set that specific voice tone. The audacity and hypocrisy and all that kind of stuff was well fed in there.
Yeah, your dialogue was very natural and really generated the scene, like the term that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, contingent reality. It really tripped my contingent reality whenever she said, has she seen how hers turned out? Like I saw two of my aunts fighting at Christmas when you said that.
I was actually like, okay, I've got to get a perspective here. So I went, contingent, what phrase drives me personally crazy? And then I just spun from there.
Yeah. I wondered, because I didn't quite understand at the beginning who was talking, I almost felt like they would have been sisters complaining about a mother, but the sisters' kids didn't turn out well either.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking more in terms of mother-in-law, daughter-in-law,
Ooh,
that natural, well,
even better. Because then it makes sense why John needs to come down and stairs and talk to her because it's his mother.
yes.
Yes. Oh, very nice. Very nice. I hung up on stupid things like more flies with sugar than vinegar. I'm like, no, because sugar's dry. It's got to be honey. And I was like, this is live. You need to pay attention. So I don't know why I went in that direction with sugar, which is stupid. But what I enjoyed so much about this was the fact that when you got inside the character's head, it's what Suzanne said. We learned so much about her. She's screaming inside, but she's smarter than to let it out. And so she agrees, she acquiesces, she backs off, and it must be worth something. And so knowing now that it's the mother-in-law, and it would take half a word to give enough clues for me to have caught that, or in writing, I probably would have caught it, I just am not as good a listener. That changes everything because it tells you something about this character's relationship with her husband and whether she wants to preserve the relationship with her mother-in-law, because some people just let that atomic explosion happen, So this is the kind of person who's interested in family relationships, in preserving connections, and confident enough in her own ability to just agree with the mother-in-law because she's going to do whatever she wants to do when the mother-in-law leaves anyway. And we know all that, though you didn't say anything. So that's pretty great. You did a lot of wonderful implication work. And as Randall said, depended on our contingent realities to pick up on the rest. Many of us have had mother-in-laws. I've had two. I actually never met my second one. But yeah, mother-in-laws, we know about them, right? Love that. I really love that. Okay, so that worked really great. And I think Tristan is hanging, but probably she didn't write in the chat, but probably doesn't have more to say there. So this was exciting. I felt like you generated some really great work and that all of you were engaging in characterization that did, it just goes to prove the point of what SNHU's trying to do in module 6, which is when you get the characterization right, it helps the plot, it helps the entire story, and we care so much about what's going to happen that it makes us better readers of your work at the same time. Guys have questions about it? Anything you want to add as we're winding down our little Saturday coffee clutch?
Are you gonna do this on New Year's Eve day?
Is that when the next one is?
Is it New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve?
It's Christmas
Or
Eve.
Christmas Eve, I mean, sorry.
I could, but aren't most people going to be?
I don't know, everybody showed up after Thanksgiving. I thought maybe they wouldn't.
And do I usually? Yeah, I have one more usually in this class, right? Going into the final stuff. Yeah, I think we don't actually have plans over the holidays. So I think I could. That's the first day of a week-long break for SNHU. And so during that week, and I will do this, but technically we don't have to, I can put an out of office, because we aren't hired. We're hired for 10 weeks and this term is 11 weeks. And so that week is our squishy week where we can be less available anyway. We can take longer than 24 hours to respond. So if you guys are interested in doing it going into the break, I have a one nodding person. Are you going to be around, Sarah?
I'm always around.
Two's enough for me to hold it. So yes, I will plan on holding it on the 24th.
Okay.
And if you want to come, you can. No offense if you don't come. I get that it's a holiday and family time and stuff like that. And it'll just be at the same time because then I will actually show up because I haven't changed the time in a year. So I know to come. I'm really grateful for Sarah because she's keeping me on track this term. I've been relying on her too much. I'm like, 2 weeks are up already. It's just been a fast term already. Okay, well, just keep in mind that if you have any questions or if my recording doesn't come through well or whatever, I'm always available. And if you're interested in being involved in that Slack channel where this Zoom link will always come. Just let me know and I'll send you the invite on the SNHU email, and then you can sign up if you want, but you don't have to. Just it's another place where I'm building community.
It's where all the cool kids hang out.
It's true. It's true. I'm still not a cool kid, but I try.
Me either.
I'm only cool to 8-year-olds.
Oh man, I've never been cool to anybody.
That's a tough audience.
Yeah.
Hey, that's about yeah. I work directly with K through 3rd grade and indirectly 4 through 8. So yeah, but I do direct instruction a lot with 8-year-olds.
I'm so impressed. I could never, and I think it says a lot about your skills to be able to do that. You understand people.
Well, this
Okay, well-
post-COVID is different, a whole different species.
Is it
Yeah,
really
yeah,
changed?
yeah.
Interesting.
And in some ways
Okay.
not. And then all of a sudden they'll wow me.
Yeah. Huh. I'd love to know more about that. You should write about it.
I
so
should share.
good.
They wrote affirmations for me yesterday. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's really sweet. Okay. Well, wonderful to see you all. I hope that this was helpful to you, and we'll keep on doing it, right?
Yep.
Good luck with your writing, and in
Thank you.
in a perfect world, your grading will be out this evening sometime. Let's go shovel some more snow and get some groceries, and then I'll be back to it. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.